A sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I'll make this every day and I'm impatient. Hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Thursday, November 21st. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over our fantasy football starts and sits for the week. In this segment, we turn our attention to the rookies of last week. 9 rookies had big performances worth talking about. We're going to talk about all of those and rank you our top 5 to 1. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday, November 21st. But like I was saying, in this segment, we turn our attention over to the rookies of last week. We've done this every single week, the rookie report, this time for week 11. And I do want to apologize before we get into it because I have just completely neglected one man in Brock Bowers all season long. That's completely wrong of me. I apologize. That is being corrected this week. But before we get into what he did, we're going to do our honorable mentions before we get into our top 5. Xavier Worthy, once again, living in the honorable mentions. He's a guy that's 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Could have had about 90 yards on 5 catches if he had kept his feet in bounds. He's had a little bit of an issue with keeping that second foot in bounds on catches that he has plenty of space to drag the toe, make a move. It's happened twice now. It's something that he needs to fix. He's still having a really good season even without those 2 examples. Brian Thomas with Mac Jones at quarterback goes 5 for 82. Not bad. Not much to expect with a Mac Jones-led team. Still sucks that he's going through that because he's had a tremendous season. Rome Odunze, 6 for 65 on yet again 10 targets. That's the second straight game. He's starting to get a big uptick in usage. He's a guy that I've really liked going forward. And honorable mention also goes to Jaden Daniels. Worst game of the season for him. He's clearly dealing with an injury. Only 191 yards, a touchdown, and an interception on 68% completion percentage. He can do better. We all know he can do better. But now let's get to our top 5. At number 5, we have Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is a guy that's really been coming on. He's been that wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and as they transition that role more and more into a passing heavy attack, get a little bit away from 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of football, he's stepping up. He's been open for Justin Herbert when they need him to. 9 targets for him, 6 catches, 123 yards. He had a huge day on Sunday Night Football against a Bengals secondary that you can easily charge up. At number 4, Caleb Williams makes his reemergence on the list. The box score doesn't look too great for him, but when you take a look at what he did especially in the context of the game, he put them in a position to win. Put them up to that game-winning field goal, a 35-yarder that eventually was blocked, didn't get them the win. That's just kind of how the Chiefs, the the Chicago Bears have been going right now. You can't really stop a curse, a bad luck kind of spell when it's on you, despite how good he played. It was one of his best games of his career. 231 yards through the air on 74% completion. Also added 70 on the ground. A really good day for him. He looks more comfortable and confident in that offense, and I think getting rid of Shane Waldron really did help that. He's my number 4 rookie of the week. Number 3 is where we start to really get to the elite rookies of the week, the guys that really showed out. Drake May at number 3. He's leading a New England team who's led with their receivers by Kayshon Boutte. That's not good, right? He's doing the best he can. 74% completion percentage. The second best completion percentage by a rookie this week. Adds almost 300 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, the game-ending interception, but he's doing all he can to basically drag a lifeless corpse of a team all the way up to relevance, and he's doing a darn good job of it. Shout out to Drake May over there. He's the number 3 rookie of the week. Number 2 is a guy that I've declined to put on here for a while, and that's due to my negligence. I apologize for that. But Brock Bowers, how about Brock Bowers? He's leading all tight ends this year in catches, in yards. He has a chance to break the rookie record that Puka Nacua set last year in those kinds of things. 13 for 126 and a touchdown on 16 targets. He also got a rush attempt in there, lost 3 yards. But what he's been able to do, kind of acting as that wide receiver 1 that Gardner Minshew loves to go to. He likes to attach himself to one guy, give him about 15 to 20 targets a game. And that happens to be the rookie Brock Bowers, who's brought up into the league and been everything he's been advertised as and more. Brock Bowers is the second best rookie of the week, and he's probably should have been on here a couple other times, if I'm being completely honest with you. And at number 1, I don't think this was a doubt in anybody's mind. Bo Nix was the best rookie last week, 28 for 33, 84% completion percentage, the best of a rookie all week. Close to all season if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels having those crazy accuracy numbers early on in the season. 300 yards, his first 300-yard passing game of his career, and 4 touchdowns. No interceptions. This is just an elite performance. His numbers out there were elite. He passed the eye test over there. He was hitting all these throws with anticipation, finding the right windows. It was a near flawless game for the rookie over there, and it showed me a lot. He's really developed from where he was in the preseason, in the beginning of the year. He's gotten better every single week, which is what you look for. Bo Nix was the best rookie this week, and it was not very close. And all this has led to a little bit of discussion about Offensive Rookie of the Year. Is Bo Nix in that conversation? And you can get carried away in the moment. I know that as a member of the media, as just people that talk about sports, this in the now, this in the moment is something that's very, very powerful. It's something that when you look at, you have to kind of take a step back when you're doing these critical thinkings and remove yourself from the momentum that is now and get rid of that recency bias, right? It's a real thing. Bo Nix had an incredible game. He is nowhere close to Offensive Rookie of the Year. If you want to throw his name in conversation, I don't want to get mad at you about that. But he's had one really good game. He's had 4 or 5 kind of middling games, and he had 4 atrocious games at the beginning of the year. Jaden Daniels, head and shoulders, is above everybody right now. You can say he's number 2. I would venture to say that he's number 3. I think Brock Bowers is up there. I think you can throw even Caleb Williams in there still, although I do think he's kind of falling behind in a lot of these metrics. But Jaden Daniels, it's his award to lose. He's had a couple of bad games that he's strung together in a row. He's dealing with that injury. I think he'll fix it, get it turned around in time. But for now, I do think that Jaden Daniels still very much is that number 1 rookie this week. Or of the year, not this week. Bo Nix gets that one. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to Thursday Night Football. Yet again, another AFC North divisional matchup, this time between the Browns and the Steelers. We'll take a look at that game, pick a winner, give you a correct score, and much more. We'll be right back. GSMC Podcast.
GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Thursday, November 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the rookie report here for you. We went over the top 5 rookies of the week. In this segment, we turn our attention over to Thursday night football, a massive clash in the AFC North as the division leader Steelers take on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns coming off of a brutal loss. Jameis Winston doing his Jameis Winston thing. We'll talk about that game in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday, November 21st. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the Thursday night football matchup in this segment. A massive one in the AFC North. The Steelers coming off of a division win against the Baltimore Ravens at home, their second game of the season where they did not score a touchdown and won. A very impressive feat nonetheless. Still not a very good sign for the offense. You're going up against a Browns defense that, while it might not be very good, it is definitely better than that Ravens defense. This is still a defense that gave up 35 points to the Saints, let Taysom Hill run wild on them. So it's not something that I'm looking at and I'm saying, oh, this is a super scary defense. But if you can't score a touchdown against the Falcons defense, not very good, or against the Ravens defense, not very good, it kind of makes me worried about this offense. And I know this offense isn't the same offense as the one that Justin Fields led in week 1, where Chris Boswell once again kicked them to a win. But it is definitely an offense that you take a look at and you say, hey, it's starting to regress. Game 1, Russell Wilson looked great. Game 2, Russell Wilson looked pretty good. He got saved by some special team stuff here and there, but still, he looked pretty good. Game 3, you're just looking at good there. In game 4, he looked kind of atrocious. He's regressing in every single game that they've played. Now, they've found a way to win because they have an elite defense on their side. And I think that elite defense is what's going to power them to a win yet again. That's not saying anything revolutionary about this Steelers defense, but it is something when you take a look at it that is very concerning for when we're talking about the future of this Steelers team. For this week, I'm not too worried about it. Nick Chubb has come back and he hasn't done much for the Browns. He's not going to do that much against a staunch Steelers defense. The question is, as always, what kind of Jameis Winston game are we going to get? Are we going to go full Jameis Winston where he throws for 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they lose the game? Are we going to go half Jameis Winston in like he did last week? Are we going to go half Jameis Winston like he did the other 2 weeks that he's played, where he either is all good or all bad? It's an interesting question, right? And I think the Browns wide receiver core is kind of fit perfectly for a Jameis Winston. You've got Elijah Moore, who's coming off of a huge game. Cedric Tillman, who's had a couple of good games with Jameis Winston as well. And David Njoku, who I think is going to step up and play a pretty big role down the stretch if the Browns want to make any kind of serious noise. I think the Steelers still win this game, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. This is a Steelers team that I think is a very, very good team. This is a Browns team that their strength has not been that strong for them this season in their defense. Myles Garrett has really stepped back after winning Defensive Player of the Year last year, something that I thought he had a chance of repeating this year, but he's nowhere close to that award. He's been shut out of the score box multiple times this season. They don't have that secondary edge rusher like they did last year to, draw some attention away from Myles Garrett, or, allow Myles Garrett to get all that attention, and then you have a much better pass rush on the other end because of it. They just don't have the kind of guys opposite of Myles Garrett that they need at this point in his career, right? Myles Garrett is a great, great player, one of the best defensive players in the league right now. Still, though, he needs some help. You can't do it all alone. When it comes to predicting this game and its final score, I think it all comes down to Jameis Winston, right? I think in this one, the Steelers' defense is going to provide enough. It is going to provide just enough for the Steelers to eke out this one. The Steelers are favored by 3.5 in this one. That's a little bit. I don't think that's a bad line, honestly. I'm taking the Steelers to win this game 27-18. It's going to be some 2-point conversions shenanigans in there, but I'm taking the Steelers to win this one. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the NBA. Some massive news coming out of the association that has to do with the All-Star Game and its changes. We'll be right back by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Thursday, November 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the Thursday night football game that takes place tonight between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. I picked the Steelers to win that game 27-18. In this segment, we turn our attention over to the world of the NBA. Some massive changes coming out of the association that have to do with the All-Star Game. They've done their darndest to make it matter. They seem like they had a little bit of a operation working with that Elam ending. Turns into quite a disaster like it did last year with a final score of 200 to about 190. It was not very good. But we'll talk about what changes they made, why they made them in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday, November 21st. But like I was saying, in this segment, we are going to get into the NBA All-Star Game. Massive changes once again. First of all, let's talk about the history of these changes, right? The NBA All-Star Game, the All-Star Games used to be something that people cared about. Now it's something that these players just kind of show up to, right? They're having fun out there. It doesn't matter. And Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, desperately wanted the NBA All-Star Game, the players in the All-Star Game to care. So they started bringing out some gimmicks, right? They brought out the Elam ending, a popular way to end the game that's being run in some smaller leagues around the world right now, right? The target is set after the third quarter is done, and instead of a timed fourth quarter, it gets rid of those free throws. You just have to hit a target number with about 5 minutes to go, and the first team to hit that target, which is 10 points more or 15 points more or whatever than the current highest score that a team has, that's when the game ends. And it worked. It worked in the first game. You got a really competitive, high-energy stretch once the Elam ending started, and the NBA thought, wow, Adam Silver thought, wow, we did that. I thought that it was going to work again because I was a huge fan of that Elam ending, and I loved the way that it worked in the All-Star game. Then we got the disaster that was last season. Last season, the players did not care. They were having fun. They were just throwing up shots, chucking it from midcourt, missing dunks, not playing good basketball, something that Adam Silver did not want to see. So he goes and says, we're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to try and fix it. And now it has come out. It's officially been passed that they're going to go to a pickup style game. It's going to be 4 teams, one of them being the winner from the Rising Stars game. It's going to be games to 25, round robin style. Winners move on until the championship that is going to 40. And this has some good and some bad in it, right? You can see how this might work. You can see how it might not, right? The reason that a lot of these guys don't try in the All-Star game is because, well, it doesn't matter. And you're already having an issue in the regular season with guys trying sometimes, although they'll never admit that. But you can see the intensity go up in the playoffs, right? When these games really matter. In the All-Star game, it just doesn't matter. So it's hard to get these guys to care. There is some caveats here, right? First of all, my initial reaction when I heard this news, my initial reaction was this could be fun, right? You have guys playing a more relaxed pickup style of ball, but it's a quick game, right? It's not like if they wanted to win, they would, start off slow and then go on this big comeback. 25 points, you can get like that in the NBA, right? That's just 7 shots in the NBA. Nice and easy to do. 7, 8, 9 shots right there. Super easy to get from these guys that are the best in the world at what they do. It's not going to be that hard to get to 25, right? But the thing that was brought up to me when I was talking about this with some people, the one that really pushed it over the edge, made me think, maybe this could work. We take a look at the fact that the Rising Stars are going to be a part of it. Now, if you are Kevin Durant, if you are LeBron James, and these Rising Stars come in there, first of all, those Rising Stars are absolutely going to try their darndest to beat a all-star level NBA squad. They're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to put themselves on the map and say, hey, we're next, old man, kind of thing, right? If you're LeBron James, are you going to let that happen? Are you going to sit there and let these young guys try and, are you going to let them beat you? I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, I don't know how it's going to go. I think it'll work really good year one. And I think we saw that with the Elam ending. It worked out really well. The question is, how much are these young guys going to care? Because that's how much this is going to work. When the All-Stars go up against each other, they're just going to be having fun out there. But when it comes to the matchups against the Rising Stars, that's the one that's going to matter. So that's the one that I'm more excited to tune into. Obviously, having 4 different teams, you're not going to get everybody get to go hard, but at least you'll have one of them go hard, and that should make it a lot of fun. Those are my thoughts on that. I'm excited to see what this new change brings. I'm excited to hear all about it. We'll take a look at it later on, but we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention to history in college basketball. Gino Auriemma, head coach of the UConn Huskies women basketball program, made history last night, becoming the winningest head coach in college basketball history. We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Thursday, November 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the changes to the NBA All-Star Game. They're going to a tournament-style, pickup-style kind of format. Hope it'll work. I'm always down for an All-Star Game where these players care because they're the best in the world, and generally they don't. I don't really know if there's a way to actually fix it, but I love that the NBA is trying. In this segment, we turn our attention to history in women's college basketball. Not just women's college basketball, but college basketball in general. History made as Geno Auriemma becomes the winningest head coach in college basketball history. We'll talk about his legacy in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Thursday, November 21st. But like I was saying, in this segment, we turn our attention over to history. The second night in a row, there has been massive history made. Geno Auriemma, one of the most legendary coaches in any sports history, has passed the great Tara Vanderveer, right? Congratulations. 1,217 wins for Geno. The greatest coach in the history of college basketball. He turned a program at UConn that was nothing into the most revered program in maybe all of college sports, at least in all of college basketball. That is a juggernaut. For 40 years, he has been there. He has led this team to championship after championship, a team that I thought at some point when I was growing up would never lose a game. They go out there. They're still an incredibly dominant program, the second-ranked program in the league, in the entire country right now, and they're always, constantly on that national championship watch, and that's due to Geno. Now they have the capital for women's basketball right now in UConn, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. It's all because of Geno, his coaching, what he's been able to do for the sport of women's basketball, for the sport of women's college basketball as a whole, is really too much to be said. But his legacy lasts on. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and he deserves to be memorialized. He's already a Hall of Famer. You can't really give him much more, but congrats. Win 12-17, the winningest coach in the history of college basketball. Congrats to him, and thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We will be back tomorrow. Every Friday, as always, we do our game picks, NFL, college football, break down that Thursday night football game, and of course, everything else that comes out of a wild day in sports tomorrow. We'll be back, same time, same place. You've been listening to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I'll see you then. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired.